Let's be real, TikTok has taken over the world more than any app ever. There's no social media I can think of more polarizing, and no app prior has had a rise to the same scale as TikTok in its short amount of time of being a thing. But with any app that grows to the size of even half of TikTok's, you're bound to have some crazy stories to emerge from it. It's without a doubt had its fair share of controversies, to say the least, and that's exactly what I'm covering in this video. This is one of the deepest rabbit holes you can dive into on the internet because of how many different people that use this platform. I also want to make this clear though, every topic gets progressively darker throughout the video, almost like an iceberg. Shout out Tub. Remember to like and subscribe, and with no time to waste on the intro, let's hop right into it. So starting off, we have the good old trend of faking mental disorders. This is basically people that fake having a disorder for clout and attention on TikTok. From what I understand, there's a lot of TikTokers that make having that disorder a part of their entire personality and brand, and those people generally don't have much personality and much to offer at all to begin with, hence why they have to resort to pretending they have something. Can't believe I'm saying this, but you should never self-diagnose yourself with anything, even if you fall under some of the symptoms you see on the internet, because you can fall down the rabbit hole of genuinely believing you have something when you really don't, and then end up in a state of pure delusion. And not only that, you're fooling people around you because you got them thinking you have something when you really don't, and it's just like, now you're in a mess. And I guess TikTok users are attracted to the quote-unquote quirkiness of it. Me personally, I just don't know what's cool about having a mental disorder or a mental illness, but that's just me though. We're not going to spend too much time on this one because it's kind of basic and dumb, so. Deadly TikTok challenges. Hey yo, little disclaimer, but do not try any of these at home, but this one takes it up a notch since people actually die from these. Internet challenges have always been a thing, but I feel like ever since TikTok they become even more ridiculous. Not saying there weren't ridiculous challenges back then, but I mean, you had the ALS ice bucket, you had Charlie, you had the Harlem Shake. Like, there weren't anything inherently dumb, and a lot of them were fun and only had good intent behind them, aside from the blue whale challenge, but we're not going to talk about that. There's been countless injuries and a handful of deaths from challenges popularized on TikTok. One of the two most notable ones are the blackout challenge, which took the lives of a 12-year-old boy and a 10-year-old girl. This challenge is when you hold your breath until you pass out from a lack of oxygen. Yes, now you should see why I'm saying these challenges are getting more ridiculous. The second most notable one is the Benadryl challenge, which is when you take an excessive amount of Benadryl, which honestly, I don't even think this gets you high in any way. At least a good high, you know, I haven't tried it, but when taken in large quantities, it can cause seizures and even cardiac arrest. This challenge took the life of a 15-year-old girl that took an excessive amount of it. And these are kids, you know, like I guess I had a strong judgment when I was younger, so I don't know. I'm 19 now, like even when I was younger, I just thought these type of things were dumb. Like maybe I was boring, I don't know. I just didn't partake in things like this. But anyways, there's other challenges like the NyQuil chicken challenge, or also referred to as a sleepy chicken. That's when you cook chicken, marinate it in NyQuil, and eat it, and I guess it's supposed to put you to sleep. You can easily come up with many different ways that can go wrong with that. You also have the milk crate challenge, which is when you build an ascending and descending staircase of milk crates and try to get to the top and make it back to the bottom. The thing is that if you fall and don't land right, you can definitely suffer some serious injuries from this. I've seen celebrities do this, rappers do this, and obviously TikTokers do this. I can't lie though, I can definitely see why this one is so fun. Still, I would never attempt this, and you shouldn't either, but I can for sure see why people do. But yeah, those are some of the most dangerous challenges on TikTok, and again, you don't try these at home. Don't try any of these. Nothing I mentioned do not do at all. And yeah, on to the next one. Randonautica. This is one of the craziest things to come out a couple years ago from TikTok, like during peak pandemic. Randonautica is an app that generates coordinates in your area for you to go to and explore. Most of the time, it will lead you to somewhere completely random and you won't really find much. But other times, it can lead you to somewhere you had no clue even existed. For example, like this lady who found an abandoned house in the middle of nowhere.
Is when I was driving, and when I tell you the sound my car made because I hit the brakes so fast, it felt like I was in a fever dream. Then 5 minutes later, not even, I find this house, and I'm like, what the time vortex or alternate dimension did I go into? Because A, none of this was on my way to my destination. B, I've lived in this area my whole life, and I've never seen this. And this house was in the middle of nowhere. Then this weird ass bird showed up, and I was like, oh, that's weird, but we'll get to that later, because that'll come back. And here's more of the house, and there's nothing around it. And then there's the mailbox. Okay, that's cool. 85, I don't know if that'll mean anything. Then there was a little shed. Okay, now look. Are those birds? Not like real birds, but are those like fake birds?
Now you might be wondering why Randonautica is much darker than the deadly challenges if you don't already know, but it's because of some of the controversies that came out from this app in its heyday. The very most notable one is when on June 20th, 2020, a group of teens in Seattle found a suitcase on a shoreline that had a really foul stench, and they were curious of it. Obviously, when you see something like that on the shore, you're gonna want to check it out, especially when an app brought you to it. When they opened it, the smell got so overwhelming they decided to call the police, and the police discovered a body in it. Yes, an app brought them to a suitcase suitcase on the shoreline with a body in it. To make it even worse, there was actually remains of two different people in it, a 35-year-old woman and a 27-year-old man. They were fatally shot and their bodies were stuffed in a suitcase. It's been alleged that it was their landlord that shot them because they got into an argument about them being behind on their rent, which if that's true, that's ridiculous. But like, imagine you go to a place that an app tells you to go to, not thinking anything of it, just to stumble upon a dead person. Like, that's insane. But rest in peace to those people. Rest in peace to everyone I mentioned thus far. Nobody deserves to go out like that. Claire Miller. Claire Miller was a 14-year-old TikToker that amassed around 22,000 followers on the platform. She was a pretty normal kid, at least of what people thought of her to be, just doing normal Gen Z things, just being on TikTok all day. She had a 19-year-old sister by the name of Helen Miller. Helen was bound to a wheelchair due to cerebral palsy. It's so hard for me to pronounce it, I don't know why. Anyways, they attended Lancaster Private Day School together, which is a private school in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And usually after school, Claire would just go to her room and post on her TikTok account. Her videos will be fairly harmless. It would just be her lip syncing or dancing to songs, but sometimes she would post something that's a little bit sus and would raise eyebrows from people that have seen it. According to the Daily Mail, one of the videos showed a bloody latex glove and a giraffe blushie covered in blood. Those videos are no longer there since her account's been deleted, but they have been reposted by some repost pages, and this segues into why it was deleted. And this story takes a short but very dark turn, as on one fateful Sunday evening when the rest of the Miller family went to bed, Claire had something truly sinister on her mind. Around 1 a.m., she crept into Helen's room with a knife from the kitchen and proceeded to stab Helen in the neck several times, then placing a pillow on her face to, I guess, keep the rest of her family from hearing her screams. She then called 911 and let the dispatcher know of what she did and waited outside for the police to arrive. At first, the police thought it was a family accident that happened inside the house until they noticed her pants were drenched in blood and the red snow indicating that she tried to clean her hands with it. She told the police that she stabbed her sister and that her dead sister was in the bed. The police went inside and removed the pillow, and there was a knife sticking out of her neck right above her chest. The rest of the family had no idea what was going on until the police showed up. They tried to resuscitate Helen, but it was just way too late and there was nothing they can do. Claire was taken into custody and charged with criminal homicide, and she'll be tried as an adult, as in the state of Pennsylvania they take murder really seriously. And supposedly her motive for doing this was attention. She felt like her sister overshadowed her and that's why she carried this out. But yeah, rest in peace to Helen. This situation is really messed up. Zachary Latham. This is the final segment on the list, and in my opinion the darkest one, not because of necessarily how gruesome it is, but because of the whole scenario and how it all played out. Zachary Latham was an 18-year-old TikToker from New Jersey. Info on him is scarce, but from his TikToks you can see he comes from a pretty wealthy background. He was one of them douchebag TikTokers that would post his car all the time and mess with his neighbors and post it, just being obnoxious, and literally nobody in his neighborhood liked him. But there was a very particular family in his neighborhood that had a long-lasting beef with him. His neighbors William and Catherine Durham would confront him about his reckless driving habits in the neighborhood, but he would always dismiss it and continue doing what he was doing. They've been going back and forth about it for 2 straight years, and Zachary will still drive recklessly around his neighborhood even after apologizing. Zachary would start to post the confrontations on TikTok, and people were actually enjoying what he was putting out there, which only fueled his ego. There is one video in particular where he calls Catherine Durham a Karen, which amassed over 3 million views.
What are you gonna do, Karen?
That's not my name, so get my name straight. Go ahead.
You okay, Karen? Go ahead, get my tag.
Let's go.
Get my tag, Karen.
My name is not Karen, so get my name straight.
Get my tag, it's okay.
A45MFA. Sir, there's an officer.
Because of the attention he was getting, he would deliberately harass the Durham family and record it. The Durhams would try contacting the police about it, but they wouldn't do anything. But on May 4th, Zachary decided to swerve his car at the Durham's 17-year-old son who was riding his bike in the neighborhood. I couldn't find a motive for him doing this, but I'm guessing it's for TikTok. William and Catherine pulled up and blocked Zachary's car on the road. They started to confront Zachary, recording him. That's when Zachary elbowed Catherine and sped off in his car back to his house. The sons of the Durham family went to Zachary's house to confront him, and there was Zachary and his wife, Sarah. Yes, his wife. He had a wife at 18, believe it or not. William and Catherine then pulled up shortly after, and that's when Zachary instructed them to get off his property. Zachary went inside to get a knife and a stun gun. Yes, a knife and a stun gun, while his wife started recording on her phone. He fired his stun gun and started swiping his knife at one of the sons. William tried to grab Zachary, and that's when Zachary slashed him in the arm and started going back to his garage. William began to follow Zachary, and that's when Zachary fired a stun gun at him. William then continued to follow, and that's when Zachary struck him under the armpit with his knife. This stab punctured William's lung, which will ultimately be fatal. The police pulled up, but by that time it would already be too late. Zachary was then taken into custody but released until his trial. But Zachary did end up going back, and he is currently serving 17 years for manslaughter. But going back to Sarah, supposedly the reason why she was recording the whole ordeal was because they wanted to go viral on TikTok. But the most notable part of this story, and why I put it last on the list, is because of how preventable it all was.